Today we're talking about breaking through the resistance, the emotions of change. Sorry about my attention there. Few technical things that popped up on my screen. So yeah, we have a great video live training for you today about change, leading through change. Inside the Executive Edge, which is my signature program, leading through change has been a hot topic. Okay, that's what we've been focusing on, we've been talking about. So I wanted to bring some of the insights here to you today. So my name is Melissa, just to give you a little bit about me, especially if we haven't had a chance to formally meet or work together yet. I'm an executive coach and a management consultant, and I work with leaders, and I help leaders empower their employees so that their employees can take more initiative. I help them create self-managed teams, and I help them have an impact. While they're doing those two things, which sound fantastic, they're also having a positive impact on the company culture, because we do it by using leading people first strategies. And that's what I'm about. So my personal mission in the work that I do is to have an impact on the everyday workplace, because I want to bring back humanity to the workplace and create environments where people thrive, where we can be excited to go to work and feel like the work that we're doing is meaningful. We're able to use our best skills and feel satisfied. And that allows us to be our best selves through our life, through every area of our life. So that's my mission, and I do it by working with one leader at a time. So that's a little bit about me. I want to welcome Kelsey Ann Balcom to today's recording or today's live training. And Kelsey Ann is my employee, and she is also stepping into a leadership position. So Kelsey Ann is bringing in the employee perspective, which I love, and bringing in some of the perspective of moving from being an employee to being in leadership. Sometimes we've been in a leadership position for a very long time, and we lose that view. It's kind of like we lose touch with how it used to be when we were there. So I love bringing the different perspectives. So Kelsey Ann, what's something that you would like to share about yourself, just so the people who are tuning in now can get a sense of who you are?
I guess I would share that, and you kind of touched on it. I wouldn't say that I'm a seasoned leader, but I would say I'm more of a junior leader. I'm definitely trying to take the leadership roles that I've already had in my experience, and kind of amplify them with emotional intelligence. So taking what I've already learned, but also really absorbing your teachings, really, and knowing that I'm starting this leadership journey off the right way, with those right, off on the right, with those right steps forward, because I'm, making space, and I'm doing those things from the beginning versus kind of learning perhaps older ways of leadership that maybe aren't so effective anymore from other people, but this is the way that's more aligned with who I am and how I live my daily life, and how I want to choose to live my life. So it's nice when those marry up, and that there's an alignment there.
Right. And personal question, answer if you feel up to it,
Sure.
but how have you grown as a leader with this leading people first mindset?
It's really helped to it's helped in my professional world, but it's definitely helped in my personal world, like, in relation to my children. Um, and I think that that's really cool. And I also think that it's cool that I can see it with like my family dynamics and friend dynamics too, that there's a lot of those learnings and teachings um, that I'm also applying with them.
Mm.
And like, like setting and holding boundaries, but doing it in a very kind way, so like just respecting my emotional intelligence and their emotional intelligence. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
been an interesting journey to because I thought I was a person that knew a lot about emotional intelligence, and I still do think that, but I wasn't a person who necessarily practiced leadership daily or recognized or was aware of it, I guess. Now I'm kind of more cognizant of, oh, right, I am taking initiative. Um, like yesterday, you were on a call. I needed you to jump off the call so I could process the recording. I messaged you and you're like, there's an example right there of taking initiative. And it was like, well, yeah, that was just what I was going to do. I needed to be able to move my next step. Um, sorry, I'm all over the place, I feel.
It's all good. It's all good. And I want to echo to the fact that you're talking about, like, as you are learning these strategies and you're practicing your emotional intelligence on a day-to-day basis, it's changing how you lead others because you are in a leadership position, which means you are leading others and helping others accomplish their work. It's also having an impact on all of your relationships in different areas of your life.
Definitely.
And leadership and and relationships are interconnected because leadership is really about working through other people and working with other people. So even if you are not in a leadership position currently, you are leading a lot of your relationships, and you're going to be able to take away some of these things, some of these concepts, some of these strategies, some of these tips, and use them across different areas of your life.
Hmm.
So let's get back to emotional intelligence. And you talked about, knowing it. And a lot of the people that I work with, and I would say almost 100% of the people I work with come in with some understanding of the concept of emotional intelligence. And they don't know what they don't know yet. So as we start working together, it's a lot of like, wow, flipping what they thought they knew on its head and really deepening their understanding of different aspects of emotional intelligence and developing various competencies. And that's a very interesting thing. And when it comes to change, because that is the topic of today, navigating the emotions of change, which creates a lot of resistance, we need our emotional intelligence to be able to do this. So today I want to talk about 3 key elements that you need to be considering as you are leading through change. So 3 key things that you need to be doing if you want to break through the resistance. And let's talk about what that resistance is. So when it comes to change, I think we can all agree that there is a lot of resistance. What happens?
I think it depends on the person. Some people, um, multiple things happen with multiple people. So you as the leader are going through your own change or your own emotions that you're trying to navigate, which you could be for or against the change personally or kind of somewhere in between, but you're going to have a position on where you sit there. And then your employees are also going to be kind of processing that change. So they could be, so in that respect, you're really And it's not only one and one, it's not like you're navigating one emotion from one person, it's you're usually navigating multiple emotions that are coming up for multiple people as well as yourself. So not only are you navigating your own emotions and multiple emotions, you're navigating other people's emotions and multiple emotions that are coming up at the same time, which could be presenting in different ways, like um, being frozen, being, too scared, being nervous, not acting, like not actioning at all because they don't know how to action.
Yep.
They're not processing that change. So
Uns-
yeah, it's
Feelings
a
of
lot of
uncertainty, fear, frustration, judgment, being in judgment of what's happening, distrust. I don't trust what's going on here. Disgust. I don't think this is healthy. I don't think this is fair. And emotions of, disengagement, is taking a step back.
Mhm.
And when it comes to emotions, so let's just put that in perspective. What are emotions? Emotions are signals, chemical signals from our brain to the rest of our behavioral system, triggered by the fact that what we want and what we have are not matching up. So our emotions are telling us to move away from what we don't want and to move towards the things that we do want. And emotions happen before our rational thinking. And we actually make decisions based on our emotions because it feels right or it doesn't feel right. And then we use our reasoning or we use our rational thinking to explain our decisions that we've already made. But
Well,
yet,
I was just going to say, but emotions don't belong in a workplace, right? Like that's that old mindset of check your emotions, leave them at the door. And that was kind of the way that I used to kind of believe, like you couldn't be emotional at work, like suck it up, princess. It just you couldn't do that. In some of my more corporate positions. But since working with you, I realized like emotions are happening constantly and multiple emotions are usually happening at the same time. And it can be challenging to navigate your own as well as navigating somebody else's when you can't control somebody else.
and let's just put like that to in perspective of
Yeah,
like the live sense of what happens.
absolutely.
So maybe I am the manager here, you're the employee. I just got news that a big change is happening. It's happening top down. I don't have any control over it. However, I'm responsible to sell it to you. And I'm saying, Kelsey Ann, there's this change is happening. It's coming into effect in 2 weeks, and you're going to need to change the way that you're working in order to meet these new um, strategic goals that are coming top down and these new requirements. And you hear that, and what
I'm like,
happens?
I'm freaking out, and I know this is just this is just role model. And I'm already going, oh gosh, am I going to be able to keep my job? Am I going to be able to perform?
Because your brain is not even recognizing that this is a fake scenario right now. You're already going through the emotions of change. This is already happening internally. And you're going to start saying, but. And I'm going to say, Kelsey Ann, it just is. It's coming from the top. I have no control over this. You don't need to be afraid.
What? I don't need to be afraid. That's easy for you to say. You're in the manager position, right?
So now I'm getting into this conversation of trying to rationalize and manage your emotions, but you're already in the midst of your emotions.
And I'm not in a nice calm state either. I'm like, I'm already in that orange or red zone, right? I'm already activated,
Mhm.
right? I'm not coming from a place of like, okay, Melissa's trying to connect with me. No, you're telling me this is the way that it is. Suck it up. That doesn't feel good.
So that is not emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is when we are able to take that emotional data that in this scenario, Kelsey Ann is giving me, I'm afraid, I don't know how it's going to happen to my job. That's emotional data, and combine it with rational thinking in order to make better decisions, more effective decisions. Therefore, it's not just emotions and it's not all rational. There is a dance to this. There's an art to combining the two. And that is what a situation like this, leading through change, calls for. So I want to share with you 3 things to consider as you're leading through change that will bring emotional intelligence and this leading people first mindset to the forefront as you're leading through change. All right, so 3 key elements to consider. Are you ready?
Ready.
If you're joining us right now, say hi, drop hi below in the comments. Share with me, what are your thoughts about leading through change? What are some of the obstacles and the things that have come up for you? I'm happy to answer questions as we're going through this. Okay, number 1, answer the questions of change. And as we were going through this, fake role play scenario, there's a question that came up for Kelsey Ann. Do you remember the questions there's one question, but there are many questions that would come up, but there is one that came up for her.
I think that was what does this mean for me? Like, how does this change affect me?
Yeah.
Directly.
Yeah. How does it affect my job? I think is what you asked. And I if I remember correctly, you were concerned about if your job was safe.
Mm-hmm. Am I going to be able to do the changes that need to be done? Am I capable?
Am I safe?
Am I safe?
And is my job safe?
Yeah.
Okay. So those were the questions that came up for you. So when it comes to answering the questions of change, we often set up our messaging, like how we're going to deliver this message. And we're approaching it from a what they need to know perspective. Okay. I can determine what I think you need to know, or, I can be told what they need to know. However, you're going to have other questions. And if I don't answer the questions, you're going to fill in the blanks. You're going to use your imagination. And that imagination is going to be colored with all of your past experiences with change. And you're going to answer your own question. And then you're going to behave as though that is the truth. Okay. That is not a scenario you want to be in, where your employees have all of these unanswered questions that they're answering for themselves based on their past experiences with change, which may not have gone well. So we want to be able to answer the questions preemptively as much as we can, and then listen to what other questions are being asked. And what are the real questions that are being asked when management is not around? So things like, why is this happening? How will this impact me? How will this impact my job? And what do I get from this? You're asking me to put in extra effort for what? What do I get out of it? So what are the benefits? What's in it for me? So these are just a few examples of common questions that come up with change. Or what else? So listen for the questions, answer the questions. So I say leave So honor the questions and leave no room for misinterpretation.
It sounds like if you're doing that, though, you're going to be having you could potentially be having dealing with some uncomfortable emotions, right?
Yeah.
If you're actually answering and not ignoring those questions that you don't really want to answer. Because a lot of those questions, I know myself, I'm like, I wouldn't want to answer them.
Yeah. And you might not even want to share what those questions are, which leads me to point number 2, increase trust. We will not be honest and transparent as individuals, as people. People are not honest and transparent unless they feel trust.
Mhm.
Okay. Trust is an emotion. It's something we feel, something that feels right, that allows us to open up and allows us to collaborate. So if you want to have some communication and some conversations where you can really get to know what the questions are and answer those questions, you're going to need some trust. So facilitating trust is it's not a nice to have, it's a must have. Trust facilitation is a must have. And trust exists in many different layers. So we have, trust between you and I, but we can have great trust and you might not trust upper management.
Mhm.
And knowing that I am now part of
Upper management.
upper management or maybe the leadership team, you trust me personally, but you don't trust who I'm part of.
Mhm.
Therefore, that affects the overall trust and your willingness to talk to me. Okay. You may not trust the other people on the team. If you talk to me, will this information get out to others? How is that going to affect me? Is it going to be used against me? Somebody else going to, use that to their advantage? Trust between the employees and the direction where we're heading. Do they trust where we're going? Do they trust the process of change, how we're going about this change? And do they trust the change itself? So these are all different layers of trust that are going to affect your ability to lead through change. So facilitating trust is not a nice to have, it's a must. And I am an advanced trust facilitator, and that is something that my clients get really, really, really well acquainted with, facilitating trust.
Mhm.
And again, it's part of the emotional intelligence of navigating emotions, and trust goes up and down and it's constantly moving. So being able to see, to feel, to know how trust is moving, where it is, where it isn't, and knowing exactly what to do to increase it. Number 3, transforming the emotional response. So resistance, we talked about, how people have emotions that come up, and that's where they made the decision. So the decision to resist is not a logical one. It lives in our emotions. So the emotions are going to come up. We will not stop that from happening, even if we have the perfect messaging, even if we've lined up all of our ducks, even if we've done everything we possibly can do. The reality is we all have experience with change. Change happens. Change is a constant in life. And we have had rough rides. we've had some chaotic change. Maybe we've had some good change, but we've also had change that's gone really, really bad. And recently, globally, we've had an experience of change that has shooken us to our core. So no matter how stable and no matter how organized and well planned out your change process is, emotions are going to come up. And by rationalizing with the emotions, which we talked about, doesn't work. So we can't just say you shouldn't feel that. That
I don't know how many times I've heard that.
that increases the intensity of the emotion. If emotions are being suppressed, denied, avoided, guess what? I'm going to feel more of that emotion because my brain keeps sending the signal and it's saying, okay, the signal's not being heard here. So let me amp up the volume. So if I'm feeling more intensity, telling me to not feel it is really not going to do anything but create the possibility of a big explosion.
Mhm.
And I'm going to leave your office and I'm going to go talk to other people. And I might even, in my talking to them, stir the pot and amp up the intensity of their emotions. So how do we transform that emotional response? Okay, and I'm asking it as a question because I want to give you like a moment to think about this. How do we transform the emotional response? If we can't rationalize it away, we can't stop it from happening, how would we do it?
Like, I'm just looking at my notes from the program.
And this is something that we really practice within the program and that we dive into. How do you move through that emotional response? That judgment, that frustration, that fear.
We would vet it.
The disgust, that, all of these things, how do we move through it? And I'll give you, one hint here. We need to first embrace it. We need to validate the fact that this is a real experience that people are having. Even if the fear is not logical, the experience of fear is very real. So to validate and embrace the emotions that are coming up and being willing to explore them and help the person move through. I'm trying to recall here a quote, the only way to the other side is through. So you have to go through it. And that means being uncomfortable and start getting comfortable with those uncomfortable feelings and being able to sit with anger and sit with frustration and sit with fear and and have a dialogue about those emotions and why they're coming up. And that is what's going to help transform that emotional response into other emotions that will carry the change forward, such as excitement, courage, interest, curiosity. These are emotions of change that move things forward. But we can't get to those emotions until we first deal with the other ones. You can't have one without the other. We can't just positive think our way through this.
Oh, you mean toxic positivity doesn't work?
It doesn't work. Unfortunately, it does not work. All right. So let's go through those 3 items again. The 3 things, just quickly answer the questions of change That requires you to be tuned in to what people need to know and leave no room for misinterpretation. 2, increase trust. Trust allows people to be honest, to be transparent, and to collaborate with you. If you want people to work with you through this change, you better have a whole lot of trust on every level, not just relational. And 3, transform the emotional response. Use your emotional intelligence. Use your emotional intelligence competencies to help the other person move through their emotions. So that takes facilitation skills, coaching skills, and a whole lot of emotional intelligence. So if this is something that you want, if this is something that you need right now because you are leading through change, and let me tell you something about emotional intelligence. You can't tell me, I did a course 10 years ago on emotional intelligence. I checked that off my list. I'm done. I've got it. And no word of a lie, I've heard this. Emotional intelligence is something that you practice every day. It's a continuous practice that you develop, that you strengthen, and what you don't use, you lose. So if you're not consciously and intentionally practicing your 8 competencies, and there is no one that I've measured that has it all figured out, that is using all of their competencies to their max. There's usually some of the competencies that we're really comfortable with and then tend to overuse. And then we have the ones that kind of work day to day, but when things go off the rails or when stress is present, which happens, especially if you're leading through change, those things go out the window. And there's the things that we're less comfortable with. And
we're not perfect.
For a lot of people, that's navigating emotions, which we just talked about being really a key factor here to being a leader that inspires people. That ability to navigate emotions is key to your presence as a leader and to your influence as a leader. So with all of that being said, I have my signature program is called the Executive Edge, and that is exactly what we focus on. We focus on building up your emotional intelligence competencies, and I'm opening up a new cohort starting next week. We have a few places left, but some places are already gone. And if you are interested, if 2023 is the year that you want to transform the way that you lead so that you have more confidence, more ease, and you're empowering others to step up so you can take things off of your plate, this is going to be the program for you. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of information here about the program in case this sounds like something that might be a good fit. I want to make sure that you have the details. And if you're interested, then I would say book a call. It's important to book a call with me. We're going to get to know each other because it's important that we're a good fit from coach to coachee, and also for the program and you. So inside the Executive Edge, it's a hybrid program. It's an 8-week leadership development program where you're going to get one-on-one coaching and you're also going to get group coaching. So that looks like 2 one-on-one sessions, one at the beginning, one at the end. We're going to measure your EQ. So the thing about EQ, it's something we can measure and it's something we can develop. And it's something that we can remeasure and confirm. So we measure at the beginning. So you'll do a SAY assessment and get your EQ leadership report. And at the end, we will remeasure so you can see exactly your progress and your return on investment. And in the middle, we're going to have 6 group session. It's going to include training and it's going to include group coaching. And just want to like talk about that for a minute, because often when we show up for leadership training, we show up to a class with our books, we sit down, we listen for an hour, 2 hours, we walk away. And that is the opposite of what you will experience with me and inside of my groups. And Kelsey Ann is actually part of a group right now going through the Executive Edge. What would you say about your group sessions?
I would say that they're highly interactive. I really appreciate that it's not just you speaking to us the entire time. There's a lot of dialogue and communications within the group setting, but there's also, you do a lot of breakout rooms. We're able to kind of have one-on-one conversations and practice the competency that we're looking at, and kind of role play, which that is, I've done numerous courses, and this is the first one that I've actually done role plays consistently, or even actually done them, to be able to learn to practice those skills more, which I really appreciate, especially being a junior leader. I'm learning a lot from the other participants within the group, because they have a lot of leadership knowledge and gems to share as well, that I've just kind of picked up and absorbed as they've been chatting, or seeing their aha moments kind of click into place as we're working through, you know, the change map. And we're looking at the change map, which is, you know, all these tools that you've given us. Yeah, it's really practical, and it's really like an active facilitation is kind of the way that I like to describe it, because it's not just you telling us, it's you actually doing the things with us
Yes.
to practice.
I would say that we're focused on integration. So the focus for the group sessions is closing that gap between knowing the concepts and being comfortable living the concepts.
Mhm.
Knowing exactly practically on the ground, when I leave this session, I'm going to walk into my office, I'm going to have a conversation with X person, and this is how I'm going to approach this conversation. Having that kind of clarity.
Mhm.
And that makes all the difference. You know, there's knowing a concept to be able to recite it. That's one level of knowledge. And then the next level of knowledge, and what we really strive for, is actually knowing how to practice it day to day confidently. I don't need to talk about it. I can live it. I can do it. And sometimes what happens with leadership training, and we're gonna move on here, but this is something that I see, and it like really like irks me. And it's the training falling short. This is why this is showing up. So what I see show up is that we learn a concept. Okay, I just learned this framework and I just learned how to move through this, but I haven't learned enough. I haven't practiced it enough to actually live it. So now I'm going back to the workplace and I'm telling all of my employees, here's what you need to know. And I'm trying to get the concept in their head for this to work. So now I have to train all the other people for it to work. But if I'm actually living this and practicing this and modeling this, I don't have to train the other people. They don't all need to know what I know. I can practice it to get the results. I can live it to get the results. I don't need to change everybody's mind or convince anyone. I just need to do it.
Mhm.
And the doing part, doing something different, is hard when we don't feel confident. So that's why the focus on integration and being really super comfortable with all of this practice and bringing it into the workplace is key to people having success and it making a difference, not just another leadership training that you're going to put, inside your mind and leave there as like, oh, it's nice to know this.
Mhm.
It's something that changes
Mhm.
who
Um,
you are as a leader and how you're growing as a leader.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of reminded, a couple of other participants have shared how the course is impacting them. So Adele has really enjoyed participating in your current session. She's learning so much about emotions and how they shape our decisions, responses, and communications. So um, leading people first and leading with emotions first, that is, I think, one of the differentiators, right? One of these things that's so different with your program because most people are like emotions. Do not pass go. Like we don't want those here. Where in those stressful situations, when you're coming up with conflict, when you're leading through change, you need to be expecting and navigating your own, but other people's,
Mhm.
right? And to think about that in those heated moments and to
Yeah, and being
default.
ready to navigate those emotions, not just assume that you can run away from them.
Yeah. And Joanne has said, which I've learned so much from her. She's been managing people for 27 years. She's a learner. She works on her skills every day. And what she's learned in your program has surpassed anything she's learned before. It's so practical, so current, and so packed with information. And I would have to echo. I definitely don't have the 27 years of experience that she does. But I am getting so much knowledge on how to actually like you said, live this practice instead of it being something that I put on a shelf and pick up and, once a week and then put back. That doesn't work.
And because the practice is so important, the practice is the homework.
Hmm.
So there's no like additional homework. I give you additional tools and additional resources as you need them, and they're there for you if you want them. But really, the homework is the practice, which means you're not doing anything extra in your week.
Hmm.
What you're doing through your week is you are exercising and you're practicing what you just learned in your everyday conversations, in your communication, in the next hard conversation you're going to have with an employee, in the way that you handle this board meeting, in the way that you're going to manage up this thing that you've been struggling with. So it's dealing with the real life challenges that are already there on your plate and doing it in a more effective way.
Hmm.
You're actually taking things off your plate. All of a sudden, you know what to do, you know how to do it, and you can actually do it in a way that's effective. And you have me and you have your group behind you as you're going through it.
Hmm.
So that's it for us today. If you want more of what you just heard, and if this sounds like something that you're interested in, book a call. There's a booking link right there in the comments. You can also send me a DM if you're not finding a spot there to book yourself in my calendar. I haven't checked my calendar in the last 24 hours, so I'm not sure how many spaces are available at this time. So just send me a message if you're not seeing anything there. We start onboarding next week, which means the people who are already confirmed, they're going to get their assessments and their one-on-one coaching sessions next week. And we're going to do a kickoff session at the end of next week. So now is the time to pull the trigger if you want in. And for all of you who are tuning in and watching, let me know what you're taking away from today's live training. It was a pleasure. Always fun. And by the way, we kind of started January. This is our first official week back in the office here. So we've done a few different live videos this week. We started off with a bang. So on Monday, we did a video how to move from manager to full-fledged leader. on Tuesday. So that was yesterday. We did a video. I shared 3 strategies on how to increase or enhance initiative and innovation on your team. This is it was a really great live training, in addition to today's training. So this is going to be the 3 that we're doing this week. If you want links to the other 2 video, please drop below links. And I'll be happy, either myself or Kelsey Ann will send you a direct message with the links to those videos so you can go check it out. Have yourself a good week. And I hope you're starting 2023 with a bang. And if leadership development is part of your plan this year, this is your opportunity. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.